Hey there, friend. Are you thinking about jumping into the 3D printing world with the Bambu Lab P2S? Honestly, I love this machine. It has completely transformed how I create, and it's easily one of the best purchases I've ever made. But here's the thing. Most of the minor little speed bumps that I've hit along the way, they weren't the printer's fault. They were on me and on my own learning curve. Developing those skills has been awesome. But you shouldn't have to learn the hard way. Consider this video your ultimate cheat sheet if you're looking for a beast of a machine for straightforward PLA and PETG print and even a little more. And maybe you don't want to drop a fortune on an H-series printer or even more than that. Or if you're wondering if it still holds up next to that brand new X2D, this video is for you. We're diving into the 10 things I desperately wish I'd known before I bought mine, so you can go in with your eyes wide open and get a massive head start. Let's get into it. Okay, so this first point, I think is really straightforward, but it's important to be prepared to bring a 3D printer into your home. These things move and shake and vibrate a lot. Now, there is built-in vibration calibration inside the P2S. So, obviously, most surfaces are gonna move a little bit, but you do wanna make sure that you place this printer on something sturdy and something that has enough room so that it can function easily without any impediment. And I don't know, I haven't had any problem with mine, like, moving off the table. But I wouldn't put it right on the very edge of anything, just in case, it decides to start moving, off the table. And I don't know, I've never really heard of them falling off. They do have like rubber feet on the bottom to give it good grip, but just be prepared. Bring it home to something strong, sturdy, and prevent that vibration from being a problem for your prints. For me, something really important to consider is the airflow in the environment that you bring this printer home to. Ventilation is often overlooked and maybe like a secondary consideration, but you are melting plastic at a high temperature inside your home, and there are volatile organic compounds that can be released. Now, depending on which filament you're using, it's going to really depend a lot on how much and how aggressive those smells and, potentially unhealthy, vented fumes could be. Some of the more complex and high-tech, engineering filaments, like your, and like ABS, there's a lot of potential for it to cause a very unhealthy environment in your home. I definitely would not put one of these things in your bedroom. You don't want this thing running overnight, gassing out into your room, and you're just like, breathing it all in. You know what I mean? I just don't think that is good for your health. I mean, I'm not here to give you the scientific chemical breakdown, but it just seems to make good common sense as well. To have this in a shared space where other people are, especially children, pets, like just think about the potential health impact. I have mine near a window, and I also use like a little air purifier right next to it. I'm not saying that's the be all end all solution. There are additional like add-ons that you can build and you can add to the printer that can make it even more safe. But just keep that in mind. If you have a shed or a garage, something like that, that might be something to consider to keep those fumes out of your home. Now, something you might consider buying right when you buy that printer, and that almost goes for any kind of printer or, any kind of 3D printer, is to get different nozzles. They're going to really apply to different projects. They're measured in millimeters, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. And they're also made out of different materials like stainless steel or hardened steel. There's tungsten, and some of them can be rather expensive, but, some of them can be pretty cheap as well. There's generic variants. I've been running a generic 0.4 hardened steel nozzle right now for probably like 500 plus hours. Haven't had a problem. I'm not saying that I recommend it, but just, you know, it's been working out well for me. But just to know that, like, if you're gonna do something small with like little details, you really want to use like that finer tipped nozzle, like the 0.2, you know, for lettering, something like that. The 0.4 is kind of like the standard default setting, you know, for most average prints, you know what I mean? And then let's say you're doing something much bigger. Like I did these kind of like hooks that I hung up in the garage to hang like my rakes and shovels and things on. I use that 0.6 nozzle. It goes much faster, work very, very well. It's not going to be as fine a detail, but the kind of thing that you really are probably going to want to have at some point. So keep that in mind that, you know, it's not just a printer. There's a whole sort of aspect of extra tools and different little supplies that you might need, you know, not just nozzles, but there's all sorts of little tools you might need, like pliers and a heat gun and things like that. So I'm going to come out with a whole new video about all the different 3D printing tools and go through some of the use cases with that. But just keep in mind, I think the nozzles are like the one thing you really want to add to that cart so that you can print whatever you want right out of the gate. Okay, and this is one of those subjects that comes up all the time with these single nozzle printers, is the filament waste. It really depends what you're printing and how you're printing it as to what amount of waste you're going to get out of the machine. If you're just doing single color prints, you know, just straight black, straight white, whatever like that, you're going to get very minimal wastage. You're just going to have a small little purge at the beginning of the print, and it's going to be like next to nothing. You're barely even going to notice. But if you're looking to do like big, complex, multicolored prints, some of them will take a really long time, and they're going to have hundreds and hundreds of color changes per print, which can add up to a large amount of material. Also, you're going to have those prime towers that print with it. If you want high quality, you want to keep that enabled. So, you know, I'm kind of like 50-50 on the subject. I accept that as part of the project. Not everything I print is multicolor. I'd say maybe like 25%. A lot of it's for my daughter. She likes the little toys, little things like that, and of course I'm happy to oblige. But for myself, I do a lot of more mundane kind of things. You can see the shelves back here. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Those are all just straight black, no big deal, you know. So keep in mind, like, the kind of printer you buy is really relevant to the kind of printing you're doing, and there are options and more options coming out every day. So this is a fantastic single color machine, and it's very, very capable for multicolor. But the more multicolor printing you do, the more waste you're going to produce, and that is added cost that's going to add up. So depending on your budget, your waste tolerance, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but keep that in mind. It's really going to matter, you know, what you want to create. If all you're visualizing is always multicolor, this might not be the printer for you. But again, it all depends on what you need, what you want, and what you can afford. So when you buy your P2S, it's going to come with a textured PEI plate, which is double-sided, and it generally works very, very well. But I've noticed, especially after a couple of thousand of printing hours, that some prints are really just going to have a difficult time adhering to that plate, and your print is going to fail, and it's going to, you know, result in waste time, waste material, and potentially, I haven't seen it yet, you could have damage to your machine as well. So I really think it's important, depending on the build plate you use, that you have good build plate washing discipline. When I use the textured PEI plate, I want to wash that between every couple of prints. I have found recently that the BIQU Frostbite plate, when I set that plate on PEI settings in the slicer, man, oh man, that is a very, very durable and way more adherent plate. I haven't had to wash it hardly at all, and it is just an absolute trooper. But knowing this ahead of time, it's going to save you hours of headache and stress, understanding that you want to keep it clean and keep it working in the best possible way. and learning more and more about the build plates. It depends a lot on what you're printing or what kind of material you want to print on. But the Glacier and the Frostbite plates from BIQU, I am not sponsored. Again, I'd love to be. Hit me up. Let's work together. But I think they are fantastic, and they're basically my go-to print. Anytime I'm printing PLA or PETG, they have not let me down. So obviously one of the biggest parts of 3D printing is the materials that you're printing with, and just know that the true cost of 3D printing, in my opinion, is absolutely the filament. If you're just a kind of boring single color printer, and no offense, I mean, I kind of wish that I was as well, you know, just you could probably keep that cost pretty minimal. But even I bought this printer in January, and I'm now making this video in about mid-May. I have already spent more than the cost of the printer, the AMS combo, just on buying filament. So keep that in mind in your budget. And, you know, obviously we all have a different cost tolerance, you know, but I'm not trying to tell you how to spend your money. I just want you to be aware, to know that going into this, that sure, you save up or you just budget the cost of that printer and you spend the money, you get this in the mail. It is such an exciting day, unboxing it, setting it up, getting that first benchy off the plate. But then you're going to be like, well, maybe we want something in purple, and maybe I need this, and maybe I need that. And that filament, it adds up. The cost can really get up there. So keep that in mind, you know, whatever kind of budget you need to set to stay on track and maintain healthy relationships in your life and your budget. Just to know that that filament is not cheap. Look for deals. I've found for sure that using the kind of off-brand filaments have been a wonderful experience. At first, I thought, oh, I just should only buy Bambu filament. No, I don't think that's true at all. I've used Sunlu, Elegoo, JU, Kingron. All have been fantastic, excellent outcome. They are beautiful, beautiful products. So don't be afraid to try the different filaments. I've used cardboard spools and plastic, haven't had a problem whatsoever using the AMS Pro 2. And, you know, just know that you're going to spend some money on filament above and beyond the cost of that printer. So keep that in mind and budget accordingly. Okay, so the last talk about the filament, but it's a big, big component of this hobby, of this business, is having a plan to store that filament. You're going to need some space. As you can see, I've built this kind of like 3D printed storage solution here. There's other systems, plans, ideas. There's so many on Maker World and all over the internet. It's not just the space, but you also have to think about the humidity. I live in a very low humidity place, and I have some dehumidification here in the basement, so these spools are in pretty good condition. I keep them in sealed bags as much as possible, but you're gonna need a little bit of room. You know, this is not just a tiny little put it in the corner kind of hobby. You need a little space to keep your materials and, you know, to keep it organized so that you can find what you need when you need it. Because you're going to want to keep that printer humming. You want to keep it running as often as possible. And, you know, switching between filaments and getting ready for the next project is a big part of that. And also maintaining the quality of that filament so that when you go to use it, it works as you intend and you're not wasting money, you know, buying it once, using it once, and then it's no good. I've heard of people online talking about using like, you know, 10-year-old, you know, filament or even older, but I don't think that's generally recommended. I haven't had an issue with any of these yet, and I guess time will tell, but just have a plan. There's some really beautiful, complex humidification systems, plastic storage bins, all sorts of stuff. Have a plan ahead of time, at least the bare minimum. Have some space set aside so you can have a nice, clean, efficient setup that isn't just functional, but it's, you know, an aesthetic environment that you really enjoy to work in. So, you know, you bring home the printer, you get it set up, everything's going great, and you get a little idea to print something and then another little idea here. And honestly, I have a backlog that's probably at least 1,000 hours of printing or more. And I can honestly say I would love, love, love to get a second one on board. Maybe a third, maybe more. You know, it really depends, you know, what kind of ambition, what kind of creativity you have in mind, especially if you're doing this for a business purpose. But even just for creative people. You know, one printer, it's sort of like, you know, once you eat one chip from the bag, there's no way you're not going back for a second. So once you get into this hobby, I feel like it is like a way of life. And not only is it for yourself, the more you share it with the people you know and you love, the more you want to print and share for other people as well. So keep in mind, you know, you're getting into kind of I don't want to say addictive, but it is an addictive thing to do. And once you get one, you're probably going to want to add a little brother or big brother or sister to the mix, you know. So hopefully I can add a second one to the fleet here sooner than later. I'm not saying that it's necessary, but of course, you know, was the first one necessary? That's debatable as well. I just think it's fantastic, and just know what you're getting into. You might think, oh, you know, I'll print a couple little flexi dragons and that'll be that. But I'm telling you what, the more you go through the options of what's available, I don't even design my own prints yet, but to know how much is out there for free, thank you to the community and all those talented designers. It's incredible, but I just don't think one is enough. Another little kind of like quality of life or, you know, tolerance of the machine factor to keep in mind is that these machines are not silent. There's a certain level of noise that's going to come from this printer. The more it's going, it's kind of like a constant thing in the background. I really couldn't ever imagine having one of these things in my bedroom to try to sleep at night with a 3D printing. I can't imagine it. And not only with the toxic, you know, the gases off gassing from it, but the sounds that these things make are constant. They're steady. And, you know, I've got mine down in the basement, a little away from the living area. It's great. But would you want to put this thing in the living room, right in the middle of like the family, you know, when there's TV and kitchen stuff going on, things like that? Like, not for me. I like this to be kind of like in an isolated space. You know, I don't think it'd be great in most office settings. You know, you're talking on the phone, you're trying to focus on what you're doing. Just keep in mind that there is a noise associated with it. Some 3D printing machines have a way higher noise level than others. So that's something that really depends on how much space and capability you have to isolate it, you know, from the rest of your home or your creative workshop. Just keep that as sort of like a back of your mind kind of idea that, you know, you don't want to be excited to get this thing and then realize that it's just a nuisance and it's making noise and, you know, you can't ever use it because it's an interruption in your regular daily routines. You want it to be something that has its own dedicated space, that isn't a hindrance to you being productive in the rest of your life, and it's not interrupting and maybe even potentially causing problems with relationships. You know, maybe the person who buys a printer tolerates the noise, but the other people around you, they just might not. Okay, and finally, I want to just mention that the software that you use with a 3D printer is called a slicer. It takes a solid object, you know, and it slices it into layer by layer by layer. And at its core, it's a generally simple piece of software. And a lot of the models you'll download online have been kind of like pre-sliced, if you will. And, you know, if you're going to print directly from your phone, you don't have nearly the granular control that you're going to have using the desktop computer version of the software. But it starts off really simple. There's literally like, I don't know, like well over 100 different variables that go into creating a print that you're happy with. You know, there's very, very fine controls, the speed, you know, the quality level, all those little factors all play into it. So you really want to take some time to learn about the software, not just the machine, because the slicer makes all the difference in the world in your end result. You can buy the most expensive high-tech 3D printer in the land, but if you don't have a good slice on that model, you are not going to get a good result. I've had a couple of prints that came right off of Maker World that were beautiful looking in the pictures, and they just did not work. But once I slowed down the print and made a few changes and re-sliced the model, it came out beautifully. I want your prints to be beautiful. So learn that slicer, understand its pros and cons, its strengths and weaknesses, and you're going to go so much further towards your goals in an easier way just by getting past that big learning curve. Okay, so check it out. You know, at the end of the day, the Bambu Lab P2S, it's an absolutely incredible machine. You know, for printing those straightforward prints and some beautiful multicolor prints with beautiful, gorgeous results, it is a total workhorse. If your budget doesn't stretch to the high-end flagship models, this thing is absolutely still in a perfect sweet spot. But now, the ball is in your court. Take a look at these 10 points and ask yourself, does this machine actually fit your specific workflow, your space, and your printing goals? If it does, you're gonna have an absolute blast, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. This video is not sponsored. I wish it was, but I can just tell you from the bottom of my heart, I love this machine. And hey, if you're looking at things like the filament waste or the noise levels, and you realize it's not for you, hey, that's completely fine. The 3D printing industry is evolving so fast right now. Don't ever be afraid to look at that higher end H series, the newer generations, or a brand new brand entirely to get exactly what you need. Whatever you choose, just get out there and start creating, have some fun. And if you're into 3D printing and you want more content, hit that subscribe button because I got a ton more videos planned for the very near future. And thank you so much for watching.